right, there's a little bit more to the story about the dire wolves. That's right. We're going to start off the story with somewhat positive and a little bit of some uh-ohs as well. But first and foremost, the whole internet seemed to have lost its mind when the news broke out yesterday morning that dire wolves are back. Now, to be clear, these are wolves that had their genetic sequence replaced with the dire wolf genome, which is absolutely incredible. So this prehistoric animal has returned back, and it's caused a big mix of reactions. And in our YouTube community poll, we did ask all of you your thoughts on it, and I really want to get your thought, and I really want to pull this up here just to read it, or at least hear what you, our community, says in regards to this, because it's always important to hear from the people. And of course, I'll go ahead and have democracy in the chat. What are your thoughts on dire wolves, or at least prehistoric animals potentially coming back? Type 1 4, like, should we do this? Should we not do this? Type 1 4, this is a breakthrough in science. There's a lot of good in this. Or type 2, no, I could see a lot of troubles coming from this. So I wonder how many ones or twos will be in the chat. But when we did post this, says, now that dire wolves have been brought back, do you think there is a danger to this? And so far, at least 38% of you have agreed. So, like, maybe there's some goodness in this, but there's also a lot of people who have also private messaged me and said, no, we are trampling on nature's plan. This goes against God's order. This is going to blow up in humanity's face. So again, it's been a mixed reaction, but I think it's important that we see the overall story behind this. And I do actually have a video from their YouTube channel, Colossal Biosciences. And again, my thoughts on this is mixed as well. I feel in many ways that this is a necessary step forward to potentially, maybe reverse some of the damages that humanity has done. Is there trouble that comes with this? Yes, there is. But I see the good and the bad. I could see this getting abused, but I could also see maybe a way in which we could undo our troubles that we have put upon this planet. So I want to play this video here. Now let's check it out in its full entirety.
Everyone likes to talk about the climate crisis, but we are actually in a biodiversity crisis, and that's absolutely critical to our way of life. So if all of these species go extinct, then we'll have full ecosystem collapse.
Some scientists have estimated that by 2050, half of all species that are alive today will be extinct. The truth is that extinction happens. Extinctions have happened throughout evolutionary history. But right now, the rate of extinction is estimated to be 1,000 to 10,000 times faster than the base rate in the fossil record. And a lot of that is our fault. We need a solution.
Colossal is the world's first de-extinction company, and we combine de-extinction with species preservation, and our goal is to make extinction a thing of the past.
Colossal
Biosciences
develops cutting-edge technology to protect biodiversity and reverse human caused extinction.
People think it's a scary word, de-extinction. They immediately put us with Jurassic Park, and it's not. We're trying to develop these new techniques in order to save animals, in order to bring back animals that, in some cases, were our fault that we don't have them any longer. It wasn't a climate problem, it was a human problem.
I think we all share the deep concern about what's happening to biodiversity, what's happening to the planet, what's happening to people whose lives have been intertwined with wild nature since before time began. And so coming together is so exciting, because I think that's how we can really drive change.
We're finding solutions to restore a species back to the wild. The purpose of that is to serve an ecological function. As we lose species within an ecosystem, if you think of a Jenga puzzle, you're sort of pulling blocks out of there. Those blocks that are creating the instability in the ecosystem is literally the function that animal plays. If we can find ways to restore animals that provide that specific function, we can create more stability within an ecosystem.
See, now here's where I agree with this, okay? And I want to pause here, because unfortunately, humanity, in its infinite wisdom, thought it was a bright idea to do absolute control over our environments before we really understood really how significant every single life form truly is across this planet. And in doing so, we have upset a balance. And now I know I'm seeing in the chat about bringing back prehistoric animals, but there's also recently extinct animals in which played a significant role in the different niches in the different ecosystems across the world. And in turn, if there is still enough of the genetic pool to be used and restore these animals and these populations, I mean, that does some good. I mean, there is the story, many of you may not be aware of this, of what happened in Yellowstone. For a long time, Yellowstone National Park did not have wolves. They were removed. I mean, they were no longer had a presence because of humans and, well, their impact there. But as soon as wolves were reintroduced, as soon as wolves were brought back into the ecosystem as the apex predators there, nature began to heal. More plant diversity, more control in the herbivore population, and the whole ecosystem changed greatly. And not just in the forest or in the plains, but in the waters, the riverways, all across Yellowstone National Park. And that's a significant impact that these carnivores did play. And in turn, yes, I understand the paradox question. I'm reminded of Jurassic Park, where they were talking about dinosaurs. Now, again, dinosaurs dying out millions of years ago. I mean, they had their chance. An asteroid and other natural events did cause their extinction. Dire wolves, perhaps, yes, let's be clear here. This is a good way to bring in money, more investors for more technology. But dire wolves did live alongside prehistoric humans. So, yes, they did have their chance. But this is also a way to say, hey, if we could bring back this extinct species 10,000 years ago, what about the ones that died 100 years ago? What about the ones that really do matter? And because of their loss, a lot of nature is still unbalanced. I'm 50-50 on this because, of course, I do want to pull this up here and rip off the Band-Aid, okay? Because I did go to Colossal Bioscience's website, and in this, predicting the 10 biggest trends of 2023, woolly mammoths to daring denim. So thanks to gene editing tools like CRISPR, the Texas-based biotech startup Colossal Biosciences, backed by millions of investors like Peter Thiel, Tony Robbins, Paris Hilton, and everybody, hang on, just calm down for a minute. Our good friends at the CIA. Say it with me. What could go wrong? Is getting closer to genetically resurrecting the mammoth and expect to complete about 50% of the edits of an actual mammoth embryo by next year, says the company's CEO and founder, Ben Lamb. So just for comedy's sake, because the CIA is also investing into it, let me test face. What could go wrong? 6 months later, everybody's running down the street. Hey, Kit, remember when you said what could go wrong? Why the hell is it I got T-Rex chasing me? Anyways, back to the main video. Because what could go wrong? What could go wrong? Have to rip that Band-Aid off. Have to.
So we've announced 3 species, the woolly mammoth, the thylacine, and the dodo. But one of the things that's absolutely critical to ecosystems is predators, as we've seen with what's happened in Yellowstone with the reintroduction of wolves back into the park. They've shown that they've even reshaped the river systems. They brought back beavers. They brought back songbirds. And so we felt that it was very important for us to bring back the direwolf.
The direwolf is the first species that we're bringing back at Colossal.
The direwolf, which most people think is just a mythical creature, was actually a keystone species that was not only endemic to the United States and mostly Americas, but it was actually culturally important to some of the biggest indigenous early tribes in America. So we thought if we could use it as an opportunity where we can also develop technologies that can help wolves, we thought it was the right first project, given how important wolves are to ecosystems.
One of the challenges when we started working on the direwolf was that we knew of only 2 direwolf specimens in the world that contained some usable DNA. One of our direwolf samples was a single tooth And then another was a 72,000-year-old skull. So we're able to use these specimens and isolate this ancient DNA out of them.
For the direwolf, there was a massive study that did many samples across multiple institutions, and Colossal took 2 of those samples and was able to generate whole genome sequences from each. And so this is incredible for any species, let alone species that have been extinct. So what you can do is you can map that to its closest living relative. So at Colossal, we're using the gray wolf, and we
Actually, by doing further research into the story, the Asian elephant is the closest living ancestor to the woolly mammoth, and they do have enough gene sequences where they could re-edit. And further on this video, they'll explain what they did to the gray wolf DNA samples, where in turn they could engineer a dire wolf.
We've been able to generate such a high quality genome that we can map back to create our own direwolf reference genome.
When we edit different lines of genetically diverse gray wolves, we'll create a set of genetically diverse dire wolves with similar edits, but the basis.
BW with the first super chat of the morning. Which idea will turn out worse? AI, genetic engineering and bringing back prehistoric animals, or sending a message out into outer space? Which one's a terrible idea, folks? No such thing as a wrong answer here.
So their diversity already existed within the gray wolf.
Gray wolves are on the endangered species list, and that means you can't just go in and collect the samples that we want.
Typically, people have to take a ear punch or a skin biopsy, and sometimes it's a very invasive process for the animal. We've developed a technology where you can take a simple blood draw, isolate these specific cells in the blood, and then clone from it.
We're changing the genome of this living animal partially into the genome of the extinct animal for those genes that matter, for the traits and characteristics that we want to see in that animal.
Discovering which parts of the genome make an animal look and act like that animal is one of the hardest problems in biology. It is unsolved and something that we have to solve if we want to know which parts of the genome we want to edit to make a gray wolf more.
Here's the thing. Okay. Menelita, good point. Good point. See, this is why I love my chat, because you guys aren't holding anything back. Again, I'm 50-50 on this because my inner child, I used to study, I was on, three different dinosaur expeditions. I've always wanted to see these prehistoric animals back, but there's always, again, the cautious side of what kind of Pandora's box are we opening here? But you do bring a good point here. Why do all these excitable CEO types seem like the rich dude with the Titanic submarine? Yes, the implosion was very real, was what happened to the Titan sub. And look, I hope they have enough fail safes and protections and abilities to keep the 3 dire wolves, because there's 3 of them now: Romulus and Remus and Khaleesi. These 3 wolves will not be allowed to be introduced into the wild. That's what I mentioned on yesterday's live stream. I did a live stream in the afternoon, right after the show, just to comment on this. But the other problem is that, look, you have these 3 wolves that are isolated, but life does find a way. And we have to remember now that while these are gray wolves that have been recoded with dire wolf DNA, these are a different species altogether now, which means they're not going to act like normal gray wolves. They're going to be acting like their prehistoric counterparts that were alive 10,000 years ago. And in turn, they act different. They're going to be different. They're going to behave differently. Their hunting patterns, the way they communicate, the way they move. And while there might be some similarities to their distant cousins, life has shown one thing. You can't imprison it. It will find a way out. And that's the issue of concern here, because what happens if these prehistoric animals do escape? What happens if there's other troubles that come with it?
Like a dire wolf.
To analyze our genomes, to compare dire wolves with gray wolf genomes, we use our tools on a platform built by FormBio.
Thank you for the second super chat. CEB Applejack59. We are very appreciative of all super chats here. Can't let BW show me up. Jurassic Park in 5 years. Trump will say he did this. Oh, God. You know what? I'm not going to do a Trump impression or anything, but Trump will probably say, we got a great park. America's the first one to bring back T-Rex. We're the first ones to bring back Triceratops, and it's all because of my administration. Great.
It's a bioinformatics company that spun out of Colossal. They built this whole suite of analysis tools and algorithms that allow us to find the differences between the direwolf genome and the gray wolf genome and filter out these differences that we actually want to edit. And so we aligned our direwolf reads to the gray wolf genome. That allowed us to know exactly where the gray wolf differed from the direwolf. One of the most exciting differences that we found in the direwolf genome is that there is a change in the L-coral gene. L-coral is a key regulator of animal size.
Next, we have to use gene editing technologies. We have cells growing in a dish in a lab that belong to a gray wolf. And so these have gray wolf genomes. Now we've decided which part of that genome we want to change. So one at a time, we take our gene editing tools and we go into that cell and we cut out the bit of DNA that looks like a gray wolf and paste in its place the DNA that looks like a direwolf.
Each time you edit the gene in a cell, you put a lot of stress on that cell because you have to get your gene editing tools in these cells and then these changes are made. So what we do instead is we try to make dozens or hundreds of changes at once. It's called multiplex gene editing.
So now we have cells growing in a dish in a lab that have DNA that makes them a little bit more direwolf-like than gray wolf-like. We have to transform these living cells into actual pups. And for that, we use a process called cloning or...
Now, I look, I'm trying to be very open and read as many of the chats as possible because I'm seeing everybody on Rumble, Kick, X, YouTube comment. Don's purple. F with Mother Nature and people die. Look, I'm hearing everybody's concerns because now that this has happened, now this has been proven to be done, and because there are a lot of investors, people with money and influence, including the CIA, investing into this company that's in America, I would be foolish to say that the Russians, the Chinese, the Europeans, everybody wouldn't be trying, or there'll be other competing companies here in America trying to do the same thing. And here's where I'm hesitant, because what are we crossing into? Because the realm of science can be a fantastic adventure, but if we're not careful, we could cause some great harm. You know, finding and harnessing the power of the atom, harnessing, the power of, atomic energy and all that good stuff. Well, yeah, great power, but also it's the power of weaponry too. Any kind of achievement that we do through science, humans have always found a way to weaponize it. And that's where I'm hesitant on this. Again, I'm 50-50. And I know that's a terrible position to be on because I see the good and the evil. It's shades of gray here. And see, the reason why I'm saying this is because the technology is now out there. It's going to be done. Just like with AI, just like with AI art or artificial voice acting. Now that it's been done, now that it's out there, now that the concept has been proven that it could work, others are going to click, copy, and paste. Just like with the power of flight, vehicles, all of that, each person's going to come up with their own iteration. But the danger with genetic engineering is if it gets out there in the wild, if it gets out there in our ecosystem, what are the long-term consequences and repercussions? We're kind of like, okay, it's out there. It's the Ian Malcolm quote as soon as T-Rex walks out of the pen. God, I hate it when I'm right.
Somatic cell nuclear transfer. This is the same process that most famously brought us Dolly the sheep.
You take an egg, an oocyte from a wolf or a dog, you take out its own DNA and you stick that direwolf cell in it.
That cell becomes an embryo that's a direwolf. It's no longer a domestic dog, which sounds totally science fiction. And with the help of a vet team, we then are able to surgically put this embryo back inside to the surrogate dog.
We have to find an appropriate dog that can carry our direwolf.
John Michael, tip $2. Rich people have rich toys, rockets, gene edit, etc. Yes, and the thing is, once that power's out there, I want to put down this video here for a second. Once that power's out there, folks, there's no containing it. It's done after that.
Everyone is thinking very critically about each step so that when that pup is finally born, we know there aren't any issues.
The safety of all of our surrogates for any of our species is the highest priority. We have an overemphasis on our animal husbandry team to secure their safety, as well as are pursuing on the science side our own exogenous development team so that one day we won't have to use surrogates.
The most exciting part is when the vet team comes in, they do their ultrasound and they say, yeah, congrats, you're going to be a puppy mom, or, you know, you're going to have a cub on the ground in a couple weeks. After the pups are delivered, there's a care team in place. They're there to make sure that our direwolf pup.
By the way, the last seconds of this video, if you are an animal lover, however you feel about the direwolves, just prepare yourselves.
Pups are happy and healthy, and that mom has gone through delivery without any problems. And then we have another team that will ensure that our pups have the right dynamics. They have the right social structures.
We're working actively right now with partners today to make sure that there are solutions and places for these animals to go in the future. And it's really important to say that all of this is done in this massive network.
It's critical to work with private landowners, local governments, indigenous people groups, and the public at large to do that in a way that's safe and publicly accepted, but also it's good for the ecosystem and the animals themselves.
What we're doing is having all of this collaboration in place well before we have these animals. And this is absolutely critical to making this work successful.
We're a part of the evolutionary stream of the planet. We're kin to every other species out there. And so because we have the ability to shape the world, I think we have a responsibility to correct our mistakes from the past.
What we do today is, I think, what the hope for the future is for biodiversity and for nature. And so to be on sort of the ground floor of creating a tool that will be the solution for our biodiversity crisis is the most motivating thought that I could ever have.
What we're doing at Colossal has never been done before.
I hope everyone around the world is leveraging the technologies that we develop here. And I hope that biodiversity loss and extinction is just a thing of the past.
The idea of being able to have direwolves again is tremendously, personally exciting. And I think it's going to be exciting to a lot of people.
The first time I see a direwolf, oh my God.
Direwolf's a big fluffy dog that I probably wouldn't pet.
I think it's going to be amazing in a lot of ways.
I'm really excited to see the birth of this direwolf pup and all the hard work that all of the teams have contributed to. There's so many people that have had their hand in this that it's just fulfilling for us to see, okay, we did it. We produced something that is magnificent and science fiction at its finest.
So, what to take away from that? Oof. All right. So there's a couple of things here because there's been many a pushback against it. Now, I do think that there's the good in this, and people have asked about, well, okay, wait, they're involved with Native American communities. By checking more onto the website, there's more about bringing back the red wolf, which is more of a modern species that has been driven to extinction as the United States began its manifest destiny westwards, again, destroying many Native American nations and tribes. This is a way in which reintroducing species and animals that did play a significant role in said tribe's community, culture, music, religion, etc. So they're also trying to do that. And many of you, I'm seeing in the chat, well, if you're going to bring back 3 of them and they can't be introduced in the wild, what's the point? Well, here's where, a red flag is waving. Are you just trying to use them for fundraising and money to say like, hey, we can do this? And the answer is most likely yes, probably. I mean, come on. You've got a lot of tech bros. You've got also people of influence and money. And as I mentioned before, the CIA also investing into this company. And that is a big, okay. So we're actually doing this. The CIA is invested in this too. What could go wrong? But there's also been the pushback as well. So first of all, Colossal Biosciences, a company that claims to de-extinct animals, announced on Monday that its scientists have successfully genetic engineered 3 wolves to resemble the long extinct direwolf. The direwolf, made famous by television series, and I cannot tell you enough how many people I told this story to, and they said, "Whoa, direwolves are actually real." Yes, they're real. There are prehistoric wolves. See, that's where inner nerd kit comes out. So here's the thing: I love prehistoric animals. Okay, I wanted to be a paleontologist, but dreams die hard in your hands. Okay, I lost a scholarship and I joined the Marine Corps. The direwolf, made famous by the television series Game of Thrones, has been made extinct for over 10,000 years. But using ancient DNA samples found in fossils, scientists were able to decipher the direwolf genome and rewrite the genome of gray wolves to match it. The company then used domestic wolves as the wolf surrogate mothers, and they gave birth to 3 wolves. 2 are 6 months old and male, named Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome. True Roman wolves for true Romans, and their sister, Khaleesi. They should have called her Nymeria. Khaleesi is more for a dinosaur name. Okay, there you go. Is 2 months old. The older wolves already measure nearly 4 feet long and weigh approximately 80 pounds. According to the company, they could grow to 6 feet long and weigh 150 pounds. The company described the birth of the direwolves as bringing back the first animals from extinction. The achievement is a result of years of pioneering science, tireless innovation, and unwavering dedication, the company said in a statement on Monday. It marks a major milestone not only for our company, but for our science, conservation, and humanity. With the birth of Romulus and Remus, de-extinction is no longer a theory, it's reality. There's more work ahead, but this moment redefines what's possible for our planet's future, the company added. Some independent scientists have pushed back on the idea that the direwolf has gone through de-extinction. All you can do now is make something look superficially like something else, not fully revive extinct species, said Vince Lynch, a biologist at the University of Buffalo, who is not involved in the research, told the Associated Press. So on one hand, you can say, oh, that guy's a hater, but all right. I'm reminded of our good friend Misty Winston, of when they are distracting you with something over there, you need to look at what's over there. Okay, I'm just reminded of her quote. Misty Winston is correct, because in many ways this could be argued that this is a once again, a distraction. And I'm always reminded again, of humanity and what we have done in this world, our overall impact as a people, as a planet. And George Carlin was a man of his time. And so I think I'm just going to read these 2 paragraphs from what he did for his stand-up. He was ahead of his time. I see the good and bad in this technology, but at the end of the day, I will close this segment with 2 quotes from George Carlin. We're so self-important. Everybody's going to save something now. Save the trees, save the bees, save the whales, save those snails, and the greatest arrogance of all, save the planet. What? Are these effing people kidding me? Save the planet? We don't even know how to take care of ourselves yet. We haven't learned how to take care for one another, and we're going to save the effing planet? I'm getting tired of that shite. I'm tired of effing Earth Day. I'm tired of these self-righteous environmentalists, these white bourgeoisie liberals who think the only thing wrong with this country is there aren't enough bicycle paths. People are trying to make the world safe for their Volvos. Besides, environmentalists don't give a shite about the planet. They don't care about the planet. Not in the abstract, they don't. You know what they're interested in? A clean place to live, their own habitat. They're worried that someday in the future, they might be personally inconvenienced. Narrow, unenlightened self-interests don't impress me. Mandatory thumbs up for George Carlin. Besides, there's nothing wrong with the planet. Nothing wrong with the planet. The planet is fine. The people are fucked. Difference. The planet's fine. Compared to the people, the planet's doing great. Been there 4.5 billion years. Do you ever think about the arithmetic? The planet's been here for 4.5 billion years. And we've been here for what? 100,000, 200,000 years? And we've only engaged in heavy industry for a little over 200 years. 200 years versus 4.5 billion. And we have the conceit to think that somehow we're a threat. That somehow we're going to put in jeopardy this beautiful little blue-green ball that's just flown around the sun. The planet's been through a lot worse than us. Been through all kinds of things worse than us. Been through earthquakes, volcanoes, plate tectonics, continental drifts, solar flares, sunspots, magnetic storms, the magnetic reversal of the poles, hundreds of thousands of years of bombardment by comets and asteroids and meteors, worldwide floods, tidal waves, worldwide fires, erosion, cosmic rays, reoccurring ice ages, and we think some plastic bags and aluminum cans are going to make a difference. The planet isn't going anywhere. We are. We're going away. Pack your shite, folks. We're going away, and we won't leave much of a trace either. Thank God for that. Maybe a little styrofoam, maybe a little styrofoam. The planet will be here. We'll be long gone. Just another failed mutation. Just another close and biological mistake. An evolutionary cul-de-sac. The planet will shake us off like a bad case of fleas, a surface nuisance. You want to know how the planet's doing? Ask those people in Pompeii who are frozen in position from volcanic ash how the planet's doing. Want to know if the planet's all right? Ask those people in Mexico City or Armenia or 100 other places buried under 1,000 tons of earthquake rubble if they feel like a threat to the planet this week. How about those people in Hawaii who built their homes right next to an active volcano, then wonder why they have lava in their living room? Shout out to George Carlin, a man of his time. Man of his time. Man ahead of his time in many ways. But now that it's done, now that it's out there, more will try and copy this. Keep your heads on a swivel, folks. This is only the beginning.